Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This is Optimizing Daily Financial Management with Church360 Ledger. This will be an overview where we'll look at this software application, Church360 Ledger, from a rather high level. We'll get into the weeds just a little bit so you can see some of those details, but we're not going to go too in depth today. We want to make sure you have a good overview of the software. My name is Peter Frank and I'm the Senior Manager of Marketing Technology here at Concordia Publishing House. Part of my responsibilities is to lead the product development of Church360, our software suite, as part of the Concordia Technology Solutions team. More on that in just a few moments. My contact information is on the screen. My phone number is there, although the best way to reach me is my email address, peter.frank@cph.org. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have, and if I don't know the answer, I'm pretty sure I'll know the person who does, and I'll pass you on to them. But I'm always excited to talk with people, especially about Church360, even Church360 Ledger, which is a little bit outside my comfort zone. I am not an accountant, but I do love numbers. And so it's always fun to dig into it. And from time to time, I'll go talk with our accounting department and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? It helps me learn a little bit more and it helps me help you. Today, our presentation will be shared by Ken Olemeyer. He is a senior manager also in the marketing department here at Concordia Publishing House, but his job is quite a bit different than mine. I'll explain a little bit more when I hand it off to him in just a few moments, but his contact information is there on the screen. I know he's always willing and eager to talk with people who are in the church, so feel free to jot that down. If you have any questions, you can reach out to him as well. A few housekeeping items before we get too far. We are planning 50 minutes for presentation today. We may go a little over, we may go a little under. There's always more than enough, but we don't want to overwhelm people. So we'll see how close we get to that 50-minute target. We're going to set aside those last 10 minutes for questions and answers. If you have questions, though, feel free to ask them at any time. You don't have to wait until the Q&A time, because while Ken's presenting, I'll be monitoring the chat on my screen over here, and I'll be able to respond if there's any questions that come up, and then I'll share those during the Q&A time at the end. One of our most common questions is, are you recording this webinar? Well, the answer to that is absolutely. We record all of our webinars and we share them on our resource center after the fact. So if you are watching this recording, welcome. I'm sorry you couldn't join live, but I'm glad you're able to see it. And if you are here live, thanks so much for being here. We'll be sending the link to the recording out in an email tomorrow morning. So you'll be able to watch any parts again if you want to double check something, or you can share it with others in your congregation who might benefit from watching it too. Sometimes people use these webinars as the official introduction of Church360 to their congregation, and that members can, or members of the leadership team who are making that decision, can watch it at their leisure. So that's why we make them available for everybody. So feel free to share it. A little bit about Concordia Technology Solutions. If you're not familiar with us, we are the church administration division of Concordia Publishing House. So we are one and the same with CPH, but we focus on things that are a little bit different. We aren't publishing books or digital resources with a lot of content. We publish software that are tools that can be used in the church office. And we've been doing that since 1984. We've focused on this realm of church management software. We've branched off a little bit into some communication tools or service planning tools, but for the most part, our focus has been on managing different aspects of the church. And of course, one of those aspects is finances. So that's what we do here, is we help you use the software to serve in your congregation. A few assumptions before I get too far. I always like to make a few assumptions just to help us frame the content that you're going to be watching. First off, I'm assuming that you are not an accountant. I am not an accountant. Ken is not an accountant. We do have accountants who work here and advise on this tool, so you can know that we are not the ones who made those financial decisions on how to set up the structure. But what I often find in congregations is that unless you have a volunteer who happens to be an accountant, church finances are run by volunteers who are not accountants, but who might have an interest or the ability to manage finances. So my assumption is that you are not. And as Ken presents, that's what he's going to be going off of, that you are not an accountant. But I am assuming you're new to Church360 Ledger. This presentation will be an overview. We're going to stay pretty high level. So if you are currently a user, if you've become well versed in the software, this may not be the right webinar for you, although I bet you'll pick up on some things as we go. The last thing is I'm assuming you're extremely busy. Given this time of year, even though we're getting into the summer months, this time of year is often as you're preparing for the next fiscal year. We're doing that in my church right now. This is the last month of our fiscal year. We start July 1. So you can bet there's a lot of budgeting, a lot of reviewing of numbers, a lot of decision making going on right now. So even though certain aspects of the church may be a little bit slower, or really not because of the pandemic, but typically June is one of our slower months. For the finance team, it's definitely a busy time. And I'm assuming the same is true for you. You know, even if your fiscal year runs on a calendar year, this is a good time to be reviewing things and reconciling things. So I am sure you are busy. Well, I am going to ask you a couple questions. If you can please tell me about yourself. I'm going to share some poll questions and just select the one that is the best option. So we'll launch this one. I'm curious as to what role is your primary role in your church. Now, the expectation is often that people who are looking at Church360 Ledger are in that financial realm. But what my experience has told me is that we'll often have a lot of administrators or even pastors who are here. As I look at this, we've got not quite everybody has voted yet, but it's a fairly even split across those bottom four. It doesn't look like we have any pastors here. Looks like we are kind of leading on the administrator line by just a little bit. All right, very good. That's very helpful. Thank you for letting me know about that. My next question is directly about Church360 Ledger. So are you currently using Church360 Ledger in your congregation? Yes, no, or no, but planning to subscribe soon. Again, this helps us know who's here. If you are already using it, then you probably know some of these things. But if you aren't using it, then there's a really good chance that you've never even seen it before. And so that'll help us know. All right, it does look like the majority are in that no or no but planning to subscribe soon category. Well, I'll go ahead and close that up. So that is good to know as well. Thank you very much for answering those questions. That's always super helpful to me. Let's get into the topic at hand a little bit. Now, again, we are talking about Church360 Ledger, but just to make sure you understand its place in the Church360 Suite, the Suite is 3 different software applications that all work very nicely together. They all serve individual unique purposes. We'll talk about Ledger in a moment, but one of the other ones is Church360 Members. And while we're focused on people there, one of the other key aspects of members is offering entry. And we just hosted a webinar about that earlier this morning. And we've talked a little bit about that offering entry side of things. In Church360 Ledger, you'll see the results of that, the deposits, but you're not seeing that individual tracking. So I'd like to clarify that up front in case there's any confusion. Now, our other application is called Church360 Unite. This is our church website builder, and there's really no true connection between Church360 Unite and Church360 Ledger, just because they're really very different applications, but they are all part of that same suite of products, and so they work together to serve as that complete church management. Now, Church360 Ledger, like I'm sure you're aware, is church finance software, and we've designed it to be intuitive, secure, and focused. We'll talk about secure in a little bit, but intuitive is meant that it is designed to be that it kind of knows what you're asking. It's not going to do the work for you, but if you go and enter a deposit, for example, it knows that you're going to be working with an asset and most likely an income account, and so it'll set those up ahead of time. So we've done a number of things within Church360 Ledger to try to be as intuitive as possible, knowing that a computer software can never quite think like a human. And then the other thing is that it's focused, meaning that it is meant for churches. We know that there are a lot of finance softwares out there, and they do a lot of different things, far more than Church360 Ledger does. They're also more expensive, and they also carry a lot of bulk that churches don't need. You're not doing a lot of invoicing to different companies. You're not having all of those kind of tools that a business needs, but a church doesn't. So we focused on just what the church needs. But that security side, let's talk about that a little bit more. As we get into the goals of Church360 Ledger, security is a key part, but maybe not in the way that you think it is. Well, first off, church finances are often managed by volunteers. We talked about that before. That's been my experience. I'm sure Ken will share the same thing. That volunteers are critical to managing church finances. But one of the challenges is that most volunteers are not accountants. Like I said before, I'm not expecting you to be an accountant today. Even if you are on the staff at a church, you may not have that accounting degree or background. Now, because it's in the church, accountability is extremely important. And that creates kind of this worrisome tension of accountability being so important, but many of the people working on it not having that background in finances. So on the one hand, we do try to prevent the ill intention from doing wrong. You will hear from time to time different stories in the news about somebody who embezzled cash from the church. But more often than not, what we find in churches is that the biggest challenge is that it's the well-intentioned who are making mistakes. Again, the accountability is so important that you're often inspecting the numbers to make sure it was done correctly. But when you have a volunteer staff, there's often people who are making mistakes because they just don't know any better. And so we were designed Church360 Ledger to increase the accountability on both of those things. We certainly want to prevent mistakes, and that's how we've gone about it with some of those intuitive tools, especially as we get into what we're talking about today, transaction entry. We've tried to make it as intuitive as possible, not just to make it easy to use, but to prevent mistakes from happening on the financial side. Now we also, oops, I think I might have jumped ahead. No, I cut that other side. It was designed to prevent mistakes, but it's also designed to prevent the ill intention from doing wrong. Meaning we have built in tools so that you can't easily make the books look different. So if you are trying to do something illegal, well, it's going to be a lot harder to do that in Church360 Ledger, or at least a lot harder to hide your paper trail because we track everything. We'll show you that a little bit at the very end. All right, so the outline for today, an overview of the software. Ken's going to go through the navigation and just the interface a little bit. Then we'll talk a bit about chart of accounts and why those are so important, especially as we get into transaction entry. And we're not going to go into great detail. Again, this is a higher level view. We'll talk about transactions and credits and debits and how it handles that. This is not a lesson on credits and debits, but it's about how Church360 allows for the entry of transactions. We'll do some Q&A at the end. I'd love to hear any specific questions you have. And again, I'll be monitoring the chat as we go. So feel free to drop questions in as Ken's talking. I'll be happy to respond to them. And if the answers are good for the whole group, I'll send it to everybody. And at the very end, because so many of you are not currently using Church360 Ledger, and we kind of anticipated that, we have a special promotional offer for attendees only. So if you are attending live, stick around to the very end. That'll go past the recording just because this will be out there for a long time and the promotion will not be. So we'll share that just for those who are live. But now let me go ahead and introduce our presenter for today, Ken Olemeyer. And while I introduce him, I'm going to switch over the presenter tool to him. Ken Olemeyer is a senior manager of marketing here at Concordia Publishing House. And like I said, his job is a bit different than mine. Ken has the pleasure of going out and meeting with churches face-to-face on a regular basis in our non-pandemic times. He's been spending a lot of time doing Zoom meetings and phone calls when he can't meet in person. But what's wonderful is that Ken goes to listen, to bring stories back and share them with the rest of us, especially as he hears about how you in the church are using our products and what things we could be doing better to help you and support your ministry. So Ken is truly an advocate for our customers, and that's how everybody around here knows it. They know that Ken's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the churches. So Ken, thank you so much for being willing to present Church360 Ledger. I know this is not necessarily your area of expertise, but I know you have a lot of stories to share. So thanks so much for being here to present today, and I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time out to do this. As Peter mentioned, what would have been starting to be a little bit slower period is still a crazy period with what we've all gone through over the last number of weeks. And I hope and I pray that your church is starting to get back and you're starting to see each other again, because that is one of the most important things that we can do, is be together as a church. As Peter mentioned, my name is Ken Olemeyer, and I'm also a senior marketing manager here at CPH. And while Peter and the Concordia Technology Solution team have been working with this software for years and know all the ins and outs and the intricacies, as he said, I'm a marketer too. I'm not an accountant. In fact, the idea of me working the books is rather quite frightening. But I just want to show you how easy it is to go through this. And that's one of the reasons I want to share it with you. What's great about this is, as I go around and I talk with different church leaders and I talk with pastors and I talk with administrators and I listen and I hear and I'm able to bring these suggestions or these stories back. One of the things I hear all the time from people like you, they might have different titles, they might have different responsibilities, but one of the things I keep hearing over and over again is this desire to be good stewards of the financials that we do get in as a church. And how can we keep our church financially sustainable? How can we continue to propel the gospel out there and do it in a way that makes financial responsibility, and as I said, we're good stewards of the funds that we have. So I think with Church360 Ledger, we have a great tool here. And actually, Peter talked a little bit about the Church360 Suite. All three of those pieces are just tremendous. And one of the things too, something that I want to talk about real quick before we go too far is, because it's web-based, you're not going to be stuck in the office having to do this. Many of us during the shelter in place, we either were working from home or we had limited staff in your office. This is something that, especially if you're a volunteer, you can do this on your laptop. You can work on this on your PC. There's a lot of flexibility that we give you with Church360 and with Church360 Ledger. So as you said, we're going to be looking at this from a 30,000-foot view. We're not going to be able to cover everything in our time. I'm going to just go right through it and just kind of show you the different pieces and the parts. We're going to take how the software is arranged. We'll take a look at that. We'll provide a quick glance into the different components and how you can then do a little bit more of a deep dive on some of this as well. I'm going to show you how simple it is, but more importantly, I'm just going to show you how automatic it is for you. I love the fact that there's so much of this that, while a lot of other software you have to put manual input, so much of this is automatic. And what that means is it frees you up to do other things, other ministries, and be available for other ministries. So we've got a lot to cover. I'm going to try to do this in about a half hour so that we have the 10 minutes or so to have time for questions. So let's go over here. I'm going to switch into my screen right now and show that. I'm going to see, wrong screen there. Let's see if I can change the way I'm sharing this. So I'm going to show screen and I'm going to go to this one. Okay, sorry about that. I switched it too soon and I shot to the other screen. So here we are. This is what you will see when you sign into Church360 Ledger. This is the home screen. It seems like there's a lot of information, but really if you look at it, it's very clean. It's very organized, and we're going to go through each one of these sites and each one of this organization, but there's a lot of information here, and that's what I love about this software. So as we go through the navigation, I'm going to just be pointing and clicking on some different things. One of the first things you'll notice is this $ icon up in the top left of your Church360 Ledger. This is your home screen. This will always get you back to this home screen right there. Sometimes that's convenient because you can be digging down into things and it's like, oh, how do I get back to where I started from? Just go back to that $, back to the home screen, and you'll be right down there. Next to it, we have a drop-down menu. And these are your various books, I'm going to call them. So, books are just a way to organize your transactions. And these have completely different accounts and maybe even different income sources. So, most churches will just require one book, but you can have different ones. So for instance, I might have a school attached to my church and I have a different income source for that. So I want to create a book for that. Or you might have other ministries that have income coming in and you want to keep track of that, like VBS, or maybe your men's club or a youth group or anything like that. Or I talk to a lot of pastors that are dual congregations, so they may have an additional parish that they take care of. You can put different additional parishes. You might have a sister congregation. This is where you place different books into that. Okay, as we move to the right, right off the bat, you see the print icon. So this is your print icon. And really what's neat about this, and I'll show this later, it just kind of shows you what's in your print queue. If you have checks or anything like that to print, this is where you could do it at the end of all your work. And we'll show that as we go on. And look, I'm going to go back to my $sign, go back to my home. All right. The other thing is, and I'll show you how you can print at different stages too. I mean, you could print from your dashboard or other areas. So then we are going straight into our books. And let me open that up. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go to this. This is our notification. So we have pending transactions. So this is very straightforward. It's just imported from somewhere else, some other source. It might be checks, it might be deposits that you have, or it might be connected with your Church360 members or other services that we integrate with. And Peter will be able to talk about many of the other services that Church360 Ledger can integrate with. So this just gives you a list of your recent payments or your recent deposits made. And from here, you can also drill down and review just right off the home page as well. Okay, the next icon, that's where I jumped ahead a little bit too much. It was our book of reports. I'm going to drop this down, and we're going to go through each one of these, but I want to just show you where it is right now so that we do remember to come back to it. But it's the different books. It's our general income, our general ledger. It's our income and expenses. It's our chart of accounts, and we're going to go through these one by one, as I said. It's our balance sheet. And those are the four main reports. The other report that's in here is the event log. And we talk about the idea of really the security of this software. Everything is recorded and everything is noted. And that is just fantastic for auditing purposes. And if you just got done with your taxes, or you still need to do your taxes, and you're trying to remember all the different things that you did and where all those pieces went, it's great just to have everything right there, right at your fingertips. Okay, the next thing you're going to see here at the top is a cog or a wheel. And this is our settings, and it's divided into two sections here. And the top section are things that are specific to your current set of books. And those will change as you go into the different books. And just for instance, you notice I've got chart of accounts, budgets, fiscal year, recurring transactions, imported transactions. Let me just change this real quick and just say income. And we'll get into these, as I said, but I want to show you how this changes. Now you see it's chart of accounts, it's budgets, it's fiscal years, it's reoccurring transactions, etc. So let me just go back to home. So I've got this. These will change at times depending on where you go and different things. And then everything below the line are the same, regardless of the book that you're working in. It's your general settings, it's your users, it's your roles. What's great about this is you can assign roles to what people have access to. And it's great to ensure that the right people have access to the right material that they need. It's fantastic too if you're doing something again with, say, VBS or maybe a men's club or something where income is coming in and you want to have people be able to put things in here or potentially write a check. You can assign the roles and the responsibilities here. It's the different books, and this is where you go to set up the new book. So we have our two here. This is where I'd go, let's say if I wanted to type in youth group, and just add a new book. And it gives me the name, it can give me the starting month or the fiscal year, the starting date, the beginning of the book activity, etc. So I'm not going to put one in here right now, but that's where you would go and add books. And then the last one is your payees. And this is helpful because you can add payees, you can companies or individuals. I'm just going to type in here my name. Perhaps I'm going to be getting a check for some reason. add that in there. And then again, it gives you all the contact information and everything you need to fill out, a space for notes, everything. So what's nice about this is it's very simple to add new people in. It's very simple to keep track of all this type of thing. All right, I showed you how to add a new book in the cog. And then your final icon there is just your user settings and your log out, etc. So putting in your email and your password and things like that. All right, so last couple things in here too. This Omnibar, this big search bar right here. This will take you directly to different areas. So for instance, your assets page where you're looking for your current or fixed items your congregation owns, like money or maybe buildings, land, equipment. Or we can take it to our expenses page where it's money spent on things and salaries, etc. Or we can type in here liabilities page, the source where your debt is, short-term, long-term debt. So all I'd have to do on here, let's just say I'm going to go to my expenses. So you see, I just start typing it in there and it already will pull it up. So I can just pull in here expense and it will show me all of this. Again, a new dashboard. I'm going to go in here. So it just shows me some different things like that. So the other thing too, and I'm going to go back to home just so I keep going back before we get too in depth in any of these. This drop-down menu, you see, it drops down into different areas, and we'll talk about each of these during the course of our time today, but transfer, deposit, payment, check, journal entry, all pretty straightforward type of accounting areas. And then last but not least, just this dashboard. The entire program provides you a glimpse of where you are, and then you can dig down from there. I love being able to go in here, and we'll do this a little bit, but clicking in, you see it changes, you see all the new information comes up. I go back to home. If I want to click into my payees, I see that, go back to home. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth too. Last but not least, and this is where I go to all the time, this is one of the things with the Church360 Suite that is pretty consistent, and I use it all the time whenever I'm on one of these programs. You see the little circle I down here at the bottom? This is information. This is your Lifeline. This is where if you're just getting to a spot and you just can't figure out what I need to do, you click on that. A search bar will come up where you can type in your question and it will pull up helpful articles to you that will then go into our resource center. And let me put a plug in right now too for the resource center. The resource center is a great place where we have a lot of training, and we have a lot of videos and webinars and just about anything you need to get started here with Ledger. So all of that is available, but you're always welcome to ask us. So you can look for an article, or if you click down here, send us a message, you see an email pop up. So ask what you're asking about, put it in the subject line, try to give us as much information as possible before you send it. And I'll tell you why. The more information you can give us, the better we can help answer that question right off the bat. So we have a team of support people that know this software in and out. They'll be able to answer anything. The other thing too is we do a lot of this through talking with people and getting suggestions and understanding what your needs are better in the church that you belong to, so that if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if there's something that you think would just be perfect to add to this software, please let us know. Many advances in this software over the years have been directly responsible to our members and the people that are using our software. So we love to hear that. You can also always call us too at 800-346-6120. So all of that is available to you. Like I said, that's your Lifeline right there. All right, let's take a look at new transactions. So when I go here, it's transfer, deposits, payments, checks, etc. Let's start with transfer. And this is, as it says, where you're just transferring money between different accounts. And there can only occur from an asset to an asset, or a liability to a liability, income to income, expense to expense. So the form pops up, and you have an optional memo line where you can type in what the background on this is, or some type of wording that just kind of keeps it in your mind. The date is always pre-populated. But again, what's nice about it is you can change it. So if you need to go in and change the date to a different day, let's say, again, you're a volunteer and at the end of your busy work week, you're volunteering a few hours to kind of help with the books, you can go in and you can change those dates. Note the account name and, different description here. So if I go into asset, expense, income, or liability, it pops up, and these are some of the automated tools that are great and that will save you time. Different things are in here. So let's just say the church credit card, and I'm transferring, $200 over. And the liability is, where am I getting that from? Let's go there. And I can either make that reoccurring or whatever. And see, notice how it automatically is taking this and kind of putting it in the right places for you. There's a lot of things in this program that are pretty foolproof, that, if you do make a mistake, it will tell you right off the bat. So that transaction was created. So you can only select one type, as I said, asset, expense, income, or liability. And if you start changing it out, it will give you the hint that you made the mistake here. So let me go back to that, transfer that. As I said, you can make sure that you can make them reoccurring, or if you did make a mistake, you can actually go back in and make those edits. All that is going to be in your event log as well. So anytime you edit, it goes automatically into that journal entry into the general ledger. So again, how much easier is that to keep track of everything than to have to worry about everything? All right, I'm going to click out of there. The next transition, let's go into deposits. And I love deposits. I love deposits. That's where you're adding money into your asset accounts, such as a checking or a savings account. What we've all gone through over the last few weeks, I hope that we're all still getting enough deposits to keep things going and keep the lights on and everything like that. This is an area where, again, we need to keep track of this information. And what's great about this is this will only be assets and income accounts in here. So again, very similar, and you'll see the similarity between each and every one of these areas. But the optional memo line, I can type in what the deposit is going to be made. I can go in and change the date. I can go into a payee. So let's say, I'm going to type myself in here. Yeah, and then the asset, so it's going into checking account, and it's $200. You can also add more down there as well, but the income is going to general fund. And again, it shows my credits, shows my debits, and I hit save. I can hit reoccurring. You can, like I said, you can also go back in, you can void, you can copy them, you can do different things of that nature. I'm not going to save that right now, but we'll keep going into it. Next area down are payments, and payments are used to either enter electronic transactions, maybe things online, or electronic payments. With your payments section here, only assets, only liabilities, and only expenses accounts can be used. So again, as you go in here, you'll see those type of accounts show up. You won't be able to go in and put in other accounts that don't fit those categories. Similar process. I hope you're starting to see the similarity here on all of these so that you can see how quick you can pick it up and do the different things. The memo line, the dates that you can change, the payees, etc., on and on. So let me click out of there. Our last thing are checks. Well, journal entries are last, but next to last are checks. And I love the checks. So we've got a memo line right here. So let's do an example of the checks, and then I'll show you how it goes into our printing. So the memo line is, we're going to pick up, we've got confirmation classes starting end of the summer. So it's not too early to start thinking about it. So we're going to say new catechism books. And that's our date. We'll just keep today's date. And our payee, we're going to be paying Concordia Publishing House. We're going to order some new books. Our asset or liability is going to go straight out of our checking account. And let's say we've got a large classes here and we need to do it and we just missed the sale. We got a great Bible sale going on right now, by the way. But let's say we just missed the sale. We've got a case of them and I don't even know what the price is on that. I'm just going to put $450 there. And our expense or our liability, where we're going to do it from, let's see. We're going to use the church credit card, because that's going to give us some extra points and some different things that we can use later. So you see kind of the check, the form of the check right here. And again, we can make it either reoccurring or we can save it. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so I've saved it. And you see right up at the top, check was added to my print queue. So again, you can go through, write all these checks, do the billing that you need, the expenses that you have, different things like this. And then you'll go into your check queue, or pardon me, your print queue, and you'll click on it or whatever checks you want to write and hit print. And there it is, the check to print out. You see everything just written down there. Very convenient, very handy. You hit print. We can do different, we've got different check numbers. I know, and Peter can confirm this as we go through, there are different check forms and things like that that you can use. So if you have a set form that you use, you can set it up to do that as well. Let me cancel that. Okay, so there we go there. I'm going to go back to home, although I could have gone this way. And I'm going to go last, I'm sorry, in my transaction journal entry. So just show you the journal entry. Again, the journal entry, this is where you can make corrective type of situation. Let's say you're balancing your checkbook and you forgot that you might be off by a few dollars because maybe there was I don't know, bank fee or an interest payment that you missed. Here's where you can go in and make that journal entry. It's very simple. You can add the memo. You can put the date in there correctly. You can do the payee exactly the same way as all the other areas. So it makes it very convenient for you. All right, so that's kind of the top area of the Ledger program. Now I kind of want to show you the dashboard. And I love the dashboard, like I said, because it gives such a good overview. I'm a very visual person, so I love to see the charts and the graphs and love to be able to point on things and have it tell me right there where we are. For me, it's helpful to see it visually. So let's go through some of these. When you click on this drop-down menu, you see when I clicked on it, everything is gone. Just kind of gives me the bottom line. But if I click on it, it will show me my assets, my liabilities, my income, my expenses. And we're able to export these into Excel. So if I just kind of click into there, we're able to bring this information in. And what's very handy for that is being able to export this into an Excel file. I'm seeing if it's opening up. It may not be. Oh, there it is right there. What's very convenient with that is then that allows you to actually make reports or keep track of things that might be in a different format that somebody else can use, or do it differently with graphs and charts and different things like that. This has a lot of those type of features as well with the dashboards and such, but sometimes you just want to get that information in an Excel chart, and that's how you would do it. You can also print this from here. It's always nice to have that print feature right off the bat. So you see, as I open it up, the preview is coming, and I can print this out. I'm one of these guys, I love to have the hard piece of paper there, so I print out a lot of stuff. Peter and I joke about that all the time. I have to have it in my hands, so sometimes even just going through things, I can have it printed out, you know, reconcile between the two columns, and everything's good for me that way. You may be that way too, I'm not sure. The other thing that's interesting here too, and I love this feature, you can really then start drilling down on a lot of these type of things. So if you drop down on this menu, you can look at, right now I have it 2020, 2021, but I can go first quarter and click on it. And you see, okay, I don't have enough right now to do this. But I can go first quarter, second quarter, and you see how that changes below. Take a look at the dashboard as it goes. Okay, third quarter, fourth quarter, we're 2 ahead. But February, March, April, so I can kind of go in and see how things change, or I can specify a date. So I want to get into, well, that's what I was doing. I was going into 2021, but I can specify a date. I can even go, I'm unable on this one to go back that far, but let me just go to there and go May. So I can just show what the month is. So I have that added flexibility to be able to go in and change dates and ranges and things of that nature. So I'm going to go back into this and just get it back to the existing for the demo purposes. But again, you can do specific years, you can do specific quarters, specific months, or that selected date range. All right, so let's go back to our general ledger. I want to run through this for about 10 minutes or so and show you a little bit on each one of these, as I said I would. If we go back up to the top into that book, so you see the different 4 pieces right there: general ledger, income and expenses, chart of accounts, which I want to get to, and balance sheet. So let's go to general ledger and show how that looks for my dashboard then. And then changing any one of those will change your view here in your dashboard, which again is really convenient. You don't have to be going back and forth between tabs, and things will connect in between. So there's lots of ways you can customize this report as well. You can change the date. I showed you the drop-down menu here. So you can change the date that you want to see. You can change the type. You know, maybe I only want to check or see checks and payments. I got that right there at my fingertips. I'm going to go back to all. I've got my check numbers. I've got payees. And again, I can change that and just see what I need to see and have that at my fingertips. I can change my accounts and just see what I need on the general ledger. Sometimes that's helpful. You just need to zero in on that one account that you need to see how you stand with them. I've got my memos right here. So you see, you know, my account, everything's right there. And again, what's great, you can export this to Excel, or you can also print it. The next one is our income and expenses. And I talked about that. That's that summary of income. It's the revenue, maybe it's the offerings, your interest that you have, maybe some property rental, some different income that you're seeing. And the expenses, those things that we have to spend on, you know, our salaries, our materials, our utilities. And we can see all of these by account. So this displays the breakdown as well of your budget, your actual, and your percent of budget, which is kind of the actual to your budget as a percent, and then the remaining, which shows the difference there. So I like this too, because it will have, we can make it very simple, where you just kind of click through and you see how that's just shortening up my screen, or we can expand it with the drop down and see where we are with these. And that does, it's nice to be able to kind of click down and click through those. This also has the date picker that I can decide on what quarter I want to see or specific month. So I'm just going to keep that as is. And you're able to export it to Excel and also to print it. All right, let's get into the chart of accounts. And this is another great view. And this shows that summary that you have with changes to your assets, to your liabilities, your income and expenses over a given time frame. And the report gives you a picture of your church's overall financial standing. Again, being good stewards of the gifts that God gives us. It's nice to be able to just take a look at it right off the bat. So you have the same type of thing with the columns. You can customize these columns. You can start with the date picker up here. It has your starting balance, again, based on that selected range that you had, your ending balance based on that selected range, your debits, your total credits, that change plus or minus, you know, that's the difference between the starting and the ending balance. And then that change percent, which is just the difference between the starting and ending balance as a percent form. Again, you can export this to Excel or you can print it. So we give you that flexibility on that to be able to do what you need to do with it. The last one here is the balance sheet. And this is our assets less our liabilities. And this provides another picture of your church's equity. Same thing as far as the columns and the starting balance, the drop-down menus here. And on some of these, not this one. I'll go into some of the other ones where I can drill down a little bit further. And then the final thing, we keep talking about this event log. This is what Peter was talking about as far as just keeping everything consistent or everything marked for you. As we do things in this software, you have an event log. And as I said, this is so helpful when it comes to auditing time and when you need to see what changes had been made. Yeah, and especially this might be helpful if you share responsibilities with a couple different people and you're seeing something that's just not right. You can go into that event log, you can take a look at it and you see, well, what's going on? You know, did somebody, well, they changed the phone of the payee, or we've changed an address, or, you know, new account was created. So having all of this right here at your fingertips is helpful as well and pretty invaluable. This is also something you export to Excel. It's also something you can print. All right. So how do you think you'd use Ledger? You know, as we're kind of now in some of the final moments here in my time, how do you think you'd use it? You know, you can see it's pretty powerful and it's pretty intuitive. For a non-accounting guy, I can go through here and I can make my transactions. And for the most part, if I mess something up, it's going to tell me, it's going to flag it, and it's going to tell me that I'm incorrect. If I do it right, it's all just automatic for it. So, you know, think about how you would use it and think about how much time it might free you up to do something. And you know, something else to think of as we wrap this up, I always say there are usually two types of people who watch these type of demonstrations. You know, they're kind of the ones who, you know, just watch it, kind of keep doing what they're doing and kind of keep getting the same results every time. And then there are others that watch these type of things. They may sign up for the free trial. They may talk about it with others and get other people's buy-in. And what they're seeing then is they're able to do something new. And then some tool like this might be able to free them up for other ministries or free them up for more time to spend with your family or do other things. So, you know, this is a great opportunity today to go in and try the 37-day free trial. Also, if you're watching live and you're staying on, Peter's got a great special promotion for you as well today. But the 37-day free trial is a great thing to try. And what that allows you to do is save some more time in there. Why 37 days? Well, it gives you a full month to work on it and a full month to see how things are going. So there's so much that you can do with Ledger, 360 Ledger, and there's so much how it intertwines with 360 members and how you can also use it in some of the Unite tools as well, but they can also be separate. And as we go through, we're going to be offering more of these type of sessions. You know, this was just a very broad overview and pretty fast, I will admit. But as I said, at the Resource Center, there's some additional studies. There's some additional information. We've got a great blog as well that has information. We send out a lot of emails, so I appreciate you being on this. If you signed up through the email, just keep that checkbox that you want to keep getting this information from us, because that's how we can communicate best with you sometimes. But be looking for new announcements coming up, because we'll do some more of these as time comes up. And as you're going through it, if you have questions, if you need help, please contact our support team. And I really do want to thank you for attending. I mean, sometimes taking this much time out of your day can be a chunk that, you know, you may not get back. If you're watching this later and you're on the video, I'm glad that you're here as well. Again, the offer stands. If you have questions, please contact us. Now I'm going to pass it over to Peter, because he's going to answer any questions that you might have. I hope that I was able to explain this and go through it well enough for you, but hopefully something, you know, some wheel turned and you said, ooh, can it do this? Put that into the questions. We'll answer those right now. And again, if we can be any further help, please don't hesitate to contact us. I say this all the time, and it's so true. If you think about the name Concordia Technology Solutions, you know, solutions is in the name. You know, there's nothing more frustrating than trying a new software or getting a new job or a new responsibility where you're responsible for something and you don't have all the tools you need. Our job is to make this a success for you. We want to make sure that it's working for you and that you're getting what you need from it. So with that, Peter, I'm going to send it back to you. Oh, you're there. Okay.
I'm already here. I've been waiting. One step ahead of you, Ken. I always got to be one step ahead of you. Well, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. You did a great job, and you showed just the breadth of things that you can do in Church360 Ledger, yet it's still so simple that anybody without that financial experience can handle it. And like you said, we're offering the free 37-day trial. We offer that all the time. We do it for a month and a week so that you can get that reconciliation in after your first month and match it up with your bank statement. We didn't go into that in detail today. But I do want to answer a few questions. I've got some already in the chat that I've responded to. But one question we often get is just about pricing. And we try to be extremely transparent about our pricing here at Concordia Technology Solutions. There's none of these games and going back and forth and haggling on prices. We make them public, we post them on our website, and this is what it is for Church360 Ledger. Now, like we talked about several times, it's part of a suite. And so there's what we essentially are doing is bulk discounts. If you have our other products like Church360 Members or Church360 Unite, there's some pretty significant discounts on Church360 Ledger. So you'll see there on the far right, if you are buying all three in the suite, Church360 Ledger is $20 a month, or if you pay annual, it's $200 for the entire year. Now, we do have a $199 startup fee, and that does apply to all of the different plans. And so that goes into helping you get started. Part of that fee covers our onboarding, which is a personalized trainer who works directly with your church, and it can be with you or with multiple people at the same time, however it works with your church. But it's not like you're sitting in a training seminar where you have a bunch of people asking questions that don't apply to you. It's all about your church. Now, the price does go up a little bit if you are not buying all of our other products standalone. The most you'd ever pay is $40 a month. There's also that discount for $400 a year. So it's a very reasonable price. There's many finance software out there that give you more than you'll ever need, and you do pay for those things. So we've tried to keep it as reasonably priced as possible. If you are interested in getting started, please feel free to give me a call or an email. You can also reach out to our software consultants. These guys will help you by providing a live demo for your church. So if you have very specific questions or situations you want to talk through, then they can help you out with that. And if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to put you in touch with the right person or answer your questions myself, either way. But
Peter, it's funny too, because these guys love to give the demo. They love to get into the nitty-gritty of this software.
Absolutely. They use their screen sharing software kind of like you did, where they can point and click to everything, but you are talking with them on the phone out loud. And so you can say, well, what about this over there? And they're like, this thing? Yep. Click on it and show you how it works. It's pretty cool. Good. Well, we've got several questions that I want to bring up and talk to you about. The first one is about online bill pay. And do we offer integration with that? And we don't offer that integration at this time. It's something we've talked about for the future. It's a little bit different than managing your own personal finances at the church, though, because it's very rare that people are just going to the store and swiping the church credit card and getting things. Usually purchases are very intentional. They require approvals. And so it's a little bit different. That's why we haven't prioritized that in our development. It's something that we're considering, and the technology behind that is getting much better and more secure, but it was always a concern about that security level in the past, and that's why it hasn't been implemented. Susan asked if we currently have a migration from QuickBooks, and we don't have that. QuickBooks is proprietary software. They don't make it easy to convert from their product. Obviously, nobody makes it easy to convert. They're not building tools to help you leave their product. And so we don't have that in place. What we do have is an integration or a migration path from Shepherd Staff, which is our own tool. And we are actively developing Shepherd Staff, and a lot of churches use the Shepherd Staff finance module. But what'll often happen is that you'll make this call to move online, just like Ken was talking about before, where you'll want to manage this from your home, sitting on your laptop on your couch because you're stuck at home during a pandemic. That's where having a web-based church finance software comes in. And so that migration from Shepherd Staff is absolutely free. It's included. And it kind of leads into one of the next questions. I'll go back to a different one in a few moments, but one of the next questions is about the choice of cash basis or accrual basis. Well, as you've seen, Church360 Ledger keeps it very straightforward. For the most part, it's just strictly a cash basis accounting software. Now, there is a way to do it where you do some accrual, but in the church, that's often too confusing for the volunteers. And so that's why we support a cash basis. It's very similar to how individuals will manage their own bank account. And so the income is recognized when the money is deposited in the bank account, and the expense is recognized when the dollars leave the bank account. So it's very straightforward. And that's why we go with that. Now, we work closely with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. We're part of the publishing arm of that church body, and they often have recommended kind of a hybrid model, which we also support. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but we do support what they recommend on that as well. Now, another question that came up was about the ability to do payroll. And payroll's beyond the scope of today's presentation because that can get a little complicated. We work with Paychex, which is a software company that is focused on payroll, and they have a number of HR tools, but Paychex is in their name. They are also recommended and partnered with Concordia Plan Services, who provide the insurance and all sorts of other tools for our churches in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So we've got this great partnership with them. We've integrated Church360 Ledger with their product. Works out nice and smoothly. And for LCMS churches, they offer a discount. So it's a great relationship. We've been very pleased working with them. The last question I had on here is about offerings. And we talked about that right at the beginning, but I'm going to go back to it because it's important. Church360 members, one of the other suites in our software in our product, pardon me, one of the other products in our software suite. It's getting late in the afternoon. I'm mixing up my words. That is where you manage offerings because it's all about people, and people are the ones who are contributing to the church. And so to provide contribution statements and to be able to email them, you manage all of your contact information in Church360 members. That's where offerings is done. Now those offerings are deposited into batches, and those batches come across in the pending transactions that Ken mentioned earlier. That's where you see that nice integration, that handoff come into play. Ledger is all about the chart of accounts and your bank accounts. Members is all about people. They play nicely with those transactions. So that's why you didn't see anything about offerings and contribution statements in Ledger, because that's all in Church360 members. All right.
Peter, would that be an issue with different roles that people would do? I mean, is that something that you would say, let's say somebody is putting in that information in members and they have the role and that's their responsibility. And then somebody else might be making sure the books are right.
You can have separate roles for those. And actually, I recommend you having separate roles because it provides that accountability. One person is saying this money is being deposited into the bank, and the other saying, yes, here's the transaction. They're kind of providing that balance. And of course, the contribution statements to the members show them what the church is recognizing they gave. So you've got these three different parties who are looking at the same thing, but holding everybody accountable. So I'm glad you brought that up because the roles are very different and you can assign them in different ways. And of course, like you mentioned before, we get pretty specific with what you can and can't do in each role. So the church can set it up in the way that works best for them. All right. Well, these webinars are a lot of fun. Ken and I have done 4 different webinars this week. It has been a whirlwind week. We appreciate you being here today. And if you're watching the recording, thank you for watching after the fact. Feel free to reach out to us with any other questions that you might have. I'll put that back on the screen. You can reach out to me on email. You can talk to our software consultants. We're happy to help you out in any way. Now, if you are watching live, please stick around for another minute or two, and I'll share a special promotional offer with you, just because we want to thank those who took time out of their day to watch us live for this hour-long presentation. But before I do that, I want to give a special thanks to Ken. Thank you for presenting this information. You did a great job going through this and how it applies in the church setting. I hope people are excited after watching you present. So to all of those, sorry, I interrupted you before.
No, I just saying thank you. Thank you, and thank everybody for joining us today.
Good. Well, thank you for watching the recording. Live attendees, stick around for just a moment. Have a great day.